Chapter 19. Caden. I had just come from the storeroom and signed for extra stock, all the cute coffee mugs and stuffed animals, and 100 other things Lane had ordered. I passed Brian as he was working on the website, adding more things Lane thought would bring in more money. I should have paid someone to work on it because Brian was more valuable being himself, a born flirt, and keeping the college-age men and women amused. I just wasn't aware that we would be this popular. Who knew that the guys and girls from Nevermore College would designate coffee, tea, and thee as the place to be when not in class, and on a Saturdays? When I opened the door to the shop, chatter and laughter were all around, besides the smell of coffee and tea that couldn't mask the aroma of fresh baked goods. The way everyone was talking, drinking, and eating, even I felt it was the place to be if you were a new adult. Then I spotted Sean with a group of his friends in a booth, and one of the waiters taking their orders. When he caught sight of me, he rose and hurried my way. I recognized one of the guys. He was the one who was sleeping in the bed with us. "Can we talk?" Sean said, catching up with me. "I know you're busy because I've never seen anything like this. You have lines on the outside and students waiting to get in. Have you thought about expanding?" "Not really. I've just gotten used to this, and I can't imagine what my life would be like if I opened up another store." I was leaning against a counter in the designated coffee area, because it was Lane's idea and Brian's to separate the coffee drinkers from the tea drinkers. They said it was best not to confuse customers' senses of taste and smell. Therefore, there was an area for both coffee and tea drinkers. Each group would find their tribe and would have a place to enjoy their beverages and talk, chat, and read. It appeared they were doing more talking and drinking than reading or studying. That was why they had libraries and why my place stayed full. Sean faced me and leaned near me. "I'm going to the opening of Wounded Ink on Saturday. Care to go with me?" "I'm going, but I don't know what time. I'm a businessman now, and my hours aren't my own, but I can meet you there." Sean agreed that he'd meet me there, and before he could get halfway to his seat, a florist strode in with a box, and I could see from where I was standing it was roses, and he held them up in the middle of the room and asked, "These are for Caden Walker and the candy too. If you don't want me to read the card, then show yourself." The customers smiled and chuckled, turned around in their seats and pointed to me. I scurried over, and he handed me the box with a large box of candy. Everyone who took the time to notice smiled and clapped, and watched me trek to my office with a gigantic grin. Lane ran over seeing my hands were full, opened and closed the door, and had the good graces to let me enjoy this moment alone. I had no doubt they were from Sean, because I couldn't imagine anyone else would send them, because it wasn't my birthday or any of the other special days of the year. And when Gray left, he hadn't looked pleased with me. The card was the first thing I opened. I read it and placed it to my chest, and when I looked at the roses, I brought one to my nose. "Oh Gray, where are you? Why is this happening to us?" I murmured with tears pooling in my eyes. "We should be together, loving each other, doing things couples in love would do. The roses and candies can never take the place of being with him," I thought. Then I sighed, but before I could find a vase to place the roses on my desk, the door opened. I turned. "Sean, I'll be out in a minute. I was wondering if you'd like to get a pizza. There's this place around the corner, and I'm buying." I hadn't had a pizza in a long time, and I didn't think anything of it, except I thought Sean was jealous. "An admirer brought those?" he asked, circling my desk to get a better look. "I guess you could say that. Anyone I know who could pay for those roses, and that candy is expensive. I don't know of any of the students who could afford that, so it must be Grayle Meadows." I didn't say anything, I just looked at him. I guessed right, didn't I? And then Lane came in and handed me a vase. He dropped it on my desk, which made a loud thump, then he turned and looked over at Sean. "I'm going out for a pizza. Can I bring you one back?" I asked Lane. "No, Scott is dropping by and he'll order something for Brian and me." I've already ordered pizza and drinks for the staff. They deserve it. I'll take it out of petty cash. There's enough for a pizza party every Friday for these guys. They work hard around here, unlike some of us who are just a distraction." And Lane aimed a nasty scowl at Sean. "I hope you're not talking about me," Sean countered. Lane stood his ground. "I'm talking especially about you. The last time I checked, this shop belonged to Caden." "Like in Boss?" Sean raised an eyebrow and placed a hand on his hip. "Sean. Leave. Wait for me outside. I didn't have time for this petty fighting between my best friend and my next." Sean offered Lane an aggressive glare, narrowed his eyes, tightened his jaw, but walked out of my office nonetheless. I was sure it was just posturing on Sean's part, but not Lane's. Lane had come up the hard way and had been picked on his entire life for one thing or the other. Raised by his gran, he didn't know his father. His mother and father were nothing but teens themselves when they had him, and he was a teen when they had split, and he came to live in Nevermore. We were friends the day he walked into the classroom, and some guy called him out for being gay, and he told him to go fuck himself right in front of the substitute teacher. She couldn't believe that he'd said that because Lane was quiet and liked to laugh all the time, but he always stood up to bullies. He took care of me in school when I was being bullied, not because I was gay, but because I had freckles. Kids bullied others for some of the most stupid reasons. My parents were outraged at that and marched up to the school and demanded that something be done. There was only so much parents could do, because they couldn't go to classes with you. I had Lane, my best friend, and I still had him trying to protect me, even if I didn't want him to. Those kids who had tried to bully us as they grew up, they eventually apologized and said that they thought I was different and not like them, and they didn't know why they'd harassed me. After I went off to college and came back, there was a changed understanding of gay men and women in Nevermore. And as far as I could tell, now they didn't ridicule children or adults for whom they chose to love. The township of Nevermore went out of their way to bring gay people here to live, and that was when they'd built this beautiful new college to grow the town and have industries come to Nevermore, because they saw the tolerance in this small community. There hadn't even been a murder in this town for 100 years, or one planned if you didn't count the times I'd fantasized about killing Zach. I sat at my desk, looking at the flowers with a wide smile on my face. Lane maneuvered around to the beautiful box holding the candy Grayle had sent. "If you're not going to eat this candy, I'll try one and tell you how it is." Lane placed a square chocolate with nuts in his mouth. "Oh shit, this is good." "No, great," he said, as if it was the best thing he'd ever tasted. He took another and made moaning sounds as if he was having an orgasm. "I'd say this box was the best in the store." Then he glanced at the label on the box. "I have to get some for Scott. My baby deserves some of this." Lane plopped another one in his mouth and closed his eyes. "That Grayle is a man after my own heart. You know he's hiring Scott as a full-time nurse for his baby, Amy. I think he said her name was Amy." Suddenly my heart stopped. Why didn't he say something to me about the baby when he was in here? Then I got angry and jealous. I always seemed to find out everything later, after others had known. I was disappointed and wanted to take it out on Lane, which he didn't deserve. I bet Grayle wouldn't have been so excited to hire Scott if he'd known that he'd been stripping just last week. "You know, Caden, that's just plain nasty. You've been hanging around Sean, and if you continue to do that, you won't recognize yourself. I have to go. Someone has to keep this place going because I see you don't want to. I don't recognize you anymore, Cade. What has happened to you in less than a week? I hope it's not meeting that little shit Sean and fucking him. You know me better than that. I used to know you. I used to know you," he repeated, his voice soft, and he gave me a piece of his mind. "I knew the teenage Cade. I don't know the man Caden. You should be happy that a man thought enough of you to send you these things. You're being petty and ungrateful. Gray is trying to tell you that he's sorry, and you're trying to make the man you love, and me, your best friend, pay for your inconsiderate behavior. Lane knew me, and he didn't hold back with his critique. I would never kiss on the unless I knew that I wanted to be with him. All that fooling around was out of my system both before and after college. I did have my feet on firm ground, as my father would say, and I knew what I wanted for my life, and that was to make this business work, pay my father back, and to get Grayle to myself. Not necessarily in that order. When Lane turned to walk away from me, I caught his arm and brought him around, and brought him into my arms for a hug. We lingered together, and I whispered in his ear, "I'm so sorry, Lane. I didn't mean it." He kissed me on the cheek. "I know you didn't, bro.